Integrated Process Excellence Executive Briefing. This is a conversation about a strategy for executives looking to implement a success planning approach as a replacement for problem-solving approach, supported by the latest and greatest Quality 4.0 technologies. Classic business style may be characterized as a collection of projects going on forever aimed at removing problems from the process. The challenge is when you remove things you don't want, you don't necessarily get what you want. So instead of a system that's based on a collection of band-aids, IPE, or Integrated Process Excellence, is a system that starts from scratch and one that's focused on the process, not the product. The answer is so simple that we've missed it, and we've gotten so tangled up in statistics and quality circles and other fads that we heard from quality gurus, seminars, or in their book. We confuse ourselves and generate what turns out to be a lot of meaningless activity. Here's one. How often have you heard somebody say, well, a problem is an opportunity or a problem is a challenge? I'd like to suggest that we stop exalting problems by hanging out neat titles like opportunity and challenges and call them what they are, a failure. A problem should always be viewed as a failure of the process, plain and simple and ugly. When quality gurus give seminars or write books, the explanations for short-lived training is simple. They provide the tools and forget about the process. IPE provides a specific, detailed framework to deploy down in the trenches by people closest to the customers. Now, I'll admit, solving problems did help, creating islands of success, but it did not create sustainable process that consistently deliver high-quality results. The good news is using the IPE structure not only avoids the cost of large project teams and training, but goes to the source of the best expertise available. Again, those people who do the work every day. And it's interesting because something remarkable happens when the people that management relies on for daily process control develop ownership of the system with the IPE framework. The problem centers around the fact that our KPIs, our key indicators, are only for the results, not for the process. You don't have to waste time trying everything. IPE is a proven approach. Think about your work environment. Is it a daily circus with everyone huddling around whatever the problem of the day is? Or is it boring like an orchestra? Keep in mind, an orchestra requires a high level of discipline and dedication. In addition to an exceptional work ethic, members need patience, tenacity, confidence, and the ability to perform at a higher level under immense pressure. The challenge we have is the long established and constantly drummed in concept that manager's job is to solve problems. Then working on a system seems to be about an outface, a new paradigm. And the stiff arm away from the fun, exciting, piecemeal problem solving will be replaced with a more nebulous activity that for several months can leave empty feeling that nothing's being accomplished. Far more serious is the fact that the boss, if he's still in the old paradigm of problem solving, will almost certainly have good appraisals for those people solving problem and penalize those who've been addressed the process. Companies cannot be successful staring at a scoreboard, nor can either sports team that just focus on the results. Sports teams have playbooks, a process that results in better scores, the winning organization. Whereas poor performing organizations usually do things by verbal instructions, intangible paperwork, emails going out that have to be interpreted by the players or the people, and by the way, good people. That's like bringing a football team to the field. I don't really know what positions people are playing. We don't have a playbook, and we just kind of wing it. Not an IPE. In IPE that focuses on the process, the only place where improvement results can be made. Now, this must become a daily theme, just like sports. How we run the business and eliminate the effort that's wasted on just staring at the scoreboard or looking at last yesterday's productivity numbers or last month's operating income. In IPE, there's a belief that the process, which is a collection of causal factors, must be controlled to get better results, to get a better score. Everyone uses a process, all will turn out well. If you ever walked into any room and people are watching a sports event, the first questions are, who's winning? What's the score? Consider a bowling alley with the addition of a curtain hung from the center of the ceiling to the floor, about halfway down. So the bowler can't see the pins and they can't keep score. How much interest in bowling or any other sport do you think anyone would muster if they don't know how they're doing? Yet your people feel the same way when they don't understand the rules of the game, they don't practice, and they don't keep score. IPE brings enthusiasm to the workplace by focusing on what's expected of the people and getting the flow of information on what they need to do, the rules of the game and the playbook, and lets them know how they're meeting those expectations, keeping score. For those of you not familiar with Edwards Deming, he's a known father of the quality movement and was hugely influential after World War II in Japan. Credited with revolutionizing their industry and making one of the most dominant economies in the world. A lot of things he told us. If you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. It's not enough to do your best, you must know what to do and then your best. Without data, you're another person's opinion. You can't manage what you don't measure. He demonstrated profound knowledge for improving organizations, yet he clearly stated he did not tell people how to do it. He described the art, not the science of business process management. IPE provides the science of business process management. So, most organizations are familiar with SBC charts and normal curves and Pareto diagrams, which are basically used in problem solving, focusing on the results. They focus on the product characteristics, not the process characteristics. And because of this, millions of dollars have been spent on SBC and how to apply control charts, versus going upstream and attacking the hundreds of relatively obscure processes, which are the only true source of product variation or results. The boring, meticulous, but critical for success. IPE suggests the use of tools of consistency and success planning that explicitly focus on the process. So first, I recommend the organization adopt some simple yet powerful mantra. Something like, you can't improve what you don't control, you can't control what you don't measure, and you can't measure what you don't define. Define, measure, control, improve. Like Deming and other quality gurus, but they didn't explain how to do it. IPM shows you how to do it. There's two driving forces between IPE. First and foremost is an obsession with the customer, not being customer-oriented or customer delight or exceeding requirements, but a true obsession, focus on the customer. The second is almost as powerful. It's probably more powerful. It's done in an ultra-positive philosophy, success planning, not problem solving. IPE has 6 steps. Step 1, again, the plan for success is a positive environment driven by an obsession with the customer. Step 2, 3, and 4 is about structuring, where technical knowledge and workforce experience are focused on each part of the process to identify those variables that we have to control to get things right. You must define what you want to measure. Step 5 and 6, you must measure what you want to control to improve. This is where the ROI happens. Interesting, as a note, problems are solved indirectly, and many are solved that weren't even known to exist. So let's look at step 1, create a positive environment. You can create a positive environment by committing to IPE, by selling a paradigm shift from problem solving to success planning. I mean, sometimes problem solving and reviewing what's going on is depressing. It's not as fun, it's not as exciting. But without a positive environment, it's tough to implement. Deming said, if you don't know how to ask the right questions, you discover nothing. So you can also start creating a positive environment with asking the right questions. If a problem occurs, instead of going down the traditional problem-solving path, make sure the participants are asked, well, who are your customers, internal or external? And what product or service are you providing? And then tell me about your process. And why is it important to control? And what you need to be successful. Step 2 is identifying the key variables. The primary objective in step 2 is to convert the customer requirements into clearly identified processes which are measurable, controllable, and assignable to specific people within the organization. Process maps and key variable diagrams and process models are created. What's a process map look like? This isn't an organizational chart. It doesn't care who reports to who. It's not driven by titles. Think of it as a way to explain your organization to new employees, or maybe to your customers, or even to your suppliers. A quick side note, this approach supports the revised ISO standard high-level structure that focuses on the process, not documents, where a quality manual is no longer required. Then we add a numbering scheme, and the numbering scheme is required for access. Here's an example. When you check into a hotel and they give you a room number, 723, you know it's on the 7th floor and odd numbers are on the north or south side. You can find it. Imagine your frustration if you're just given a key without a number and left to your own to find the hotel room. Your employees have the same frustration trying to find the correct process standard in a document-driven quality manual SOP versus a process-driven approach. IPE sends you to the correct place to make finding information easily accessible. Then a key variable diagram. It takes the process map and then guides each department through a conversation with people closest to the process. And it just asks, what do I need from the suppliers? Again, internal or external. What do I do when I get the information? What's the process? And then what do I produce? What's the output? This conversation, every time I do it in companies, ultimately results in a deeper understanding of internal suppliers and internal customers. So you would then take it down to accounting, HR, and then systematically walk it through the process. Passion for success. After an extensive failure mode and effect analysis, you've created a list of everything you don't want to happen. Well, the people are still trying to figure out, what do you want me to do? So again, as positive environment, the mantra continues. Focus on success. Be positive. Look in the future. Focus on what needs to be done. And work on the system where 94% of the problems occur. The bottom line is we have variability in the product or the result because we have variability in the process. In IPE, the focus is the process, and the results, the outputs, are the product. I was teaching a group of CFOs from a global billion-dollar company about this approach, and they wanted every plant manager to focus on return on asset earned. So I asked the group, what are the key things that make return on asset earned go up or down? The room was quiet. My point is, it's very frustrating to play a game where the plays needed to win, needed to score, are unknown. There's no playbook. And we're just looking at the scorecard. So in IPE, expect success. Success mode and effect analysis. The really powerful part of this is expecting success releases a force called enthusiasm in your people, and it sets them free from the fear of failure. This is important. It sets them free from a fear of failure. And then you put it together in the process model. And again, this is not a theoretical classroom training effort. This is the how-to that the previous quality gurus have not provided. IPE gives you a specific, detailed framework to deploy. down in the trenches with those people closest to the process. So what we see is the structure of IPE has been developed by unlocking the secrets of the most fundamental individual processes. Step 3 is develop the process worksheets. There's no quick or easy way to do this job. But we do know that lack of clarity and objectivity in most of the traditional SOPs and work instructions that are created in a vacuum are a futile exercise of paperwork. Step 3 requires each variable identified in Step 2 is addressed in a standardized format. The fundamental premise here is that there's no better way to bring and hold the process in control than get the people who routinely do the process. The worksheet is a fundamental building block of IPE. Once we build the worksheets, we need to communicate them. And it's another critical step that takes the information developed in steps 2 and 3 and puts them either into a handbook or with Quality 4.0 technology, it puts them on their cell phone. We want to make sure that everyone in the organization has the opportunity to contribute and understand the processes they're involved in. We want to make sure that everyone in the organization has at least a fundamental understanding of variation, but more importantly, we want to make sure everyone has rapid access to it. And when I say to it, unique to their immediate area. One of the other things that has been very powerful in the communication phase is when we create the worksheets in Step 3, we put on the worksheets the name of the people that developed the worksheet. It gives them acknowledgement and it gives them ownership. Step 5, control the process. You know, one of the most common complaints I hear over and over is no one tells me how I'm doing. And that's followed up by, oh, by the way, they never tell me what's expected either. Again, no expectations, no feedback, no playbook. All we have are conversations about the results. Feedback is the issue addressed in Step 5. And analytics are part of an essential part. Quality 4.0 provides exceptional new approaches for process control, and we cover that under a separate conversation. Step 6, improve the process, getting solutions plugged in so they become routine part of the operation. What I mean by plugged in is, unless you put what you did in a framework that continually improves over time, people forget about it. Even if you put it in that SOP that's shoved in a quality manual somewhere that nobody ever reads except during an audit, it isn't getting plugged in. Now, self-directed work groups play an important role. But again, the feedback loop is success planning, not problem solving. So the 6-step process. Integrated process excellence doesn't rock the boat, it sinks it. And it does this by forcing us into discussions we would not otherwise undertake in the firefighting problem-solving mode. Quick summary. Step 1 was a top-down, value-driven, visible change in the way management people think, talk, work, act every day, asking the right questions. Step 2 were people that are directly involved in the process are consulted for their input on what they think is truly important for creating success. And because people are directly involved, consulted, and communicated. This, by the way, is where people, hopefully, are saying to themselves that maybe, just maybe, this time the management people mean what they say. Step 3 is built on the people's input of Step 2, examining in detail everyone's key tasks required to be successful, the issues identified in the initial structuring step. Step 4 is an explosion of down-to-earth, applicable reinforcement deployment along with standards in a format showing ownership. It's reasonable to assert at this point, in many of the organizations, the people are, because of this process, vastly more aware of their personal role in the overall scheme of things. People know something about their company's purpose, the company's strategy, the company goals, but more importantly, they know what they as individuals can do routinely to win, to get success. Step 5 and 6 is the payoff. Now there's a caveat. I added this slide after somebody asked me about this in the last presentation. There needs to be a combination of urgency and patience. Here's the example I gave in answering their question. Suppose a particular manager knew for sure that somewhere down the road, maybe in a couple of years, success was going to be achieved. No question about it. Again, a passion for success. Under these circumstances, it wouldn't be that difficult and patience would come easier. In other words, expecting success and waiting with patience will come naturally. And again, expecting success is a key ingredient. Perhaps the most difficult aspect of trying to deploy is the paradigm shift in an organization of how long it takes. Because if you're just looking at the scoreboard, the results are painfully slow, and it might look like nothing's happening for managers who basically just focus on their results. The bottom line is results cannot come overnight. This isn't a I want this by Monday type thing. A bit of oversimplification, but be patient with results and go like crazy on the process. We have a whole nother set of material about Quality 4.0, but I did want to share one thing that quality professionals or business professionals should know about. The difference between logical and physical data designs. Logical data designs focus on the relationships between the entities, the attributes, and the rules governing those relationships, the cause and effect, the success mode and effect analysis. Imagine if the CFOs I was training had a tool that they could go to wherever they wanted, around the world, globally, anytime they wanted. Show me conformance to standards for every process variable that impacts return on asset earned. We have a lot more information available upon request. The other thing I want to give you a heads up on, we're going to do detailed overviews of steps 1 through 6. And one of the white papers that we have available now is Quality Cost Through Theory to Deployment. PProsos offers a variety of service supporting IPE from half-day overviews to 20-day deployments. If you'd like to learn more, happy to hear from you at jmc@pproso.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for taking time for the briefing.